Welcome to our channel. Enjoy the video.
Atlanta, Georgia. The summer of 1979. At first, it seemed like isolated tragedies. A child would leave home, promising to return before dark. Hours passed. Then days. Families searched neighborhoods, handed out homemade flyers, and prayed for good news that never came. But as the disappearances continued, fear spread across the city. One missing child became 2. Then 3. Before long, dozens of young people, most of them black children and teenagers, had been reported missing or were later found dead. Every new report deepened the sense that something terrifying was happening. For parents, ordinary routines suddenly felt dangerous. Walking to a friend's house, riding a bicycle, or visiting a nearby store became risks many were no longer willing to take. Children who had once spent afternoons playing outside were told to stay indoors. Schools, churches, and community leaders urged families to remain vigilant as anxiety grew with every passing week. The city itself struggled to understand the crisis. Atlanta was known as a center of opportunity and progress, yet now it faced a wave of violence that seemed impossible to explain. Rumors spread faster than verified information. Every unfamiliar car, every stranger on the street, every unexplained sound late at night became a reason for suspicion. As the number of victims increased, criticism of the investigation also grew. Many residents felt the disappearances were not receiving the urgency they deserved. Community activists demanded greater action, arguing that the lives of these children should command the full attention of law enforcement and the nation. Investigators, meanwhile, faced an extraordinarily difficult challenge. Some victims had disappeared months apart, and the available evidence varied from case to case. Detectives had to determine whether they were hunting one offender, multiple offenders, or confronting a series of unrelated crimes that only appeared connected. With each passing month, pressure mounted. Local police were joined by state and federal investigators. Tips poured in from across the country. Thousands of leads had to be checked, yet none seemed to bring the nightmare closer to an end. Then, as detectives compared the evidence from multiple crime scenes, they began noticing similarities that were difficult to ignore. Certain forensic findings appeared again and again, suggesting that at least some of the cases might be linked. For the first time, investigators believed they might not be chasing random tragedies. They might be hunting a single killer. And that realization would lead them to launch one of the largest murder investigations in American history. By early 1981, Atlanta was under enormous pressure. The list of victims had grown, fear had taken hold of entire neighborhoods, and investigators faced relentless demands to stop whoever was responsible. More than 100 detectives, agents, and specialists were assigned to what had become one of the largest homicide investigations in American history. Every lead was examined. Thousands of tips flooded in from across the country. Witnesses reported suspicious strangers, unusual vehicles, and possible sightings of missing children. Detectives interviewed countless people, searched homes, and followed trail after trail, only to find most ended in disappointment. At the same time, forensic experts searched for connections between the crime scenes. Tiny fibers, dog hairs, and other trace evidence began appearing in multiple cases. Individually, they seemed insignificant. Together, investigators believed they might point toward a common source. But there was still no suspect. Then detectives changed their strategy. Several victims had been recovered in or near rivers. Investigators theorized that if the killer was disposing of bodies from bridges, he might eventually return to do it again. So, under the cover of darkness, police quietly stationed officers at bridges throughout the city, waiting night after night. For weeks, nothing happened. Then, in the early hours of May 22, 1981, officers conducting surveillance heard a loud splash beneath the James Jackson Parkway Bridge over the Chattahoochee River. Moments later, they saw a car crossing the bridge. The driver was stopped and identified as 23-year-old Wayne Williams, a freelance music promoter and aspiring talent scout. Williams explained that he had been on his way to meet a woman about a business opportunity. Investigators noted his explanation and allowed him to leave. At that moment, police did not have enough evidence to arrest him. But they didn't forget the encounter. Just 2 days later, the body of 27-year-old Nathaniel Cater was discovered downstream from the bridge. Investigators believed the timing was significant, and Williams quickly became the focus of intense surveillance. As detectives dug deeper, they compared fibers recovered from several victims with fibers collected from Williams' home and vehicle. Investigators concluded that some of those fibers were consistent with materials linked to him. They also reported similarities involving dog hairs associated with a dog that lived in the Williams household. To prosecutors, the growing collection of circumstantial and forensic evidence formed a compelling picture. To others, it raised as many questions as answers. No eyewitness had seen Williams abduct any of the children. Much of the case depended on forensic interpretations available at the time, and some families remained unconvinced that one man could be responsible for so many deaths. Nevertheless, investigators believed they had finally found the person they had been searching for. The city prepared for a trial that would divide public opinion for decades, and leave one haunting question that still echoes today. Was the mystery finally solved? Or had the investigation reached the wrong conclusion? In early 1982, all eyes turned to the courtroom. Prosecutors made a strategic decision that surprised many observers. Instead of charging Wayne Williams with the deaths of the children whose disappearances had terrified Atlanta, they brought him to trial for the murders of 2 adults, Nathaniel Cater and Jimmy Ray Payne. Their reasoning was straightforward. They believed the forensic evidence in those 2 cases was the strongest. If they could secure convictions, they argued, it would establish Williams as the killer behind a much larger series of murders. Over several weeks, jurors heard testimony from forensic experts, investigators, and witnesses. The prosecution presented fiber evidence, dog hair comparisons, and other trace materials they said connected Williams to multiple victims. They argued that the odds of those similarities occurring by chance were extraordinarily small. The defense pushed back just as forcefully. Williams denied killing anyone. His attorneys argued that the forensic evidence was circumstantial, that many of the fibers described were common household materials, and that investigators had become so determined to solve the case that they focused on one suspect while overlooking other possibilities. After deliberating, the jury found Wayne Williams guilty of the murders of Nathaniel Cater and Jimmy Ray Payne. He was sentenced to life in prison. Following the convictions, investigators announced that they believed Williams was responsible for the majority of the Atlanta child murders. Many of the remaining homicide investigations were effectively closed based on that conclusion, even though Williams was never tried for those children's deaths. For some, the verdict finally brought relief. After nearly 2 years of fear, many residents believed the nightmare had ended. Parents who had lived in constant anxiety hoped the city could finally begin to heal. But for others, the answers were far from complete. Several victims' families questioned whether enough evidence existed to attribute so many murders to a single person. Independent researchers, journalists, and former investigators also debated whether every case belonged to one offender or whether multiple perpetrators may have been responsible. Over the decades, alternative theories emerged. Some suggested that not all of the murders were connected. Others argued investigators may have stopped looking too soon once they believed they had identified a suspect. Those questions have never completely disappeared. Even today, historians, legal experts, and true crime investigators continue to examine the evidence, separating established facts from speculation in one of America's most debated criminal cases. Then, decades after the trial, advances in DNA technology offered investigators something they had never possessed in the early 1980s. A chance to re-examine the evidence with modern science. Would new testing finally confirm the original investigation? Or reveal that one of America's most infamous murder cases still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered? More than 4 decades have passed since the Atlanta child murders shook an entire city. For many Americans, the case was considered closed the moment Wayne Williams was convicted. But for numerous victims' families, investigators, and historians, the search for answers never truly ended. As forensic science advanced, new possibilities emerged. Techniques that did not exist in the early 1980s suddenly offered investigators a chance to examine old evidence with greater precision. In 2019, Atlanta officials announced that physical evidence from the case would be retested using modern DNA technology, hoping to either strengthen previous conclusions or uncover new leads. The decision reignited worldwide interest. Could decades-old evidence finally reveal the truth? Or had time erased the clues forever? Wayne Williams has consistently maintained his innocence in the murders. His legal team has repeatedly challenged the conclusions reached during the original investigation, while law enforcement has continued to stand by its position that the evidence supports his responsibility for many of the killings. Yet the debate has never completely disappeared. Some experts believe the forensic evidence still points convincingly toward Williams. Others argue that several cases remain too different in their circumstances to confidently attribute them all to one person. They believe some murders may never be fully explained, leaving open the possibility that more than one offender was involved. What everyone agrees on is the tragedy itself. At least 28 children, teenagers, and young adults are officially recognized as victims in the investigation. Behind every headline was a family whose life changed forever. A birthday that would never be celebrated, a bedroom left untouched, parents who spent decades wondering whether every question had truly been answered. The Atlanta child murders transformed policing, forensic investigations, and the way missing children cases are handled across the United States. It also exposed deep concerns about race, media attention, and how communities are protected during times of crisis. Today, the case remains one of the most debated criminal investigations in American history. Whether modern forensic testing will ever provide definitive answers is still uncertain. But one fact cannot be disputed: the victims deserve to be remembered not for the mysteries surrounding their deaths, but for the lives they never had the chance to live. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't simply who committed these crimes. It's whether the complete truth will ever be known. And until every unanswered question is resolved, the Atlanta child murders will remain a haunting reminder that some of history's darkest chapters refuse to stay closed.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our next video. See you in the next one.